All right.
This is Wrong Speed Record Chat number 3. Tonight we have Mr. Tom House from Spain currently. Hello, Tom. How you doing?
South of England originally, Spain, East Sussex originally, Spain now. Spain for the time being. I'm well, thank you, Joe. How you doing?
Yeah, good. So Tom was in Charlottefield, and he is now in Sweet Williams and numerous other things that I'm sure we'll cover. But tonight we're talking about records, and I'm sure we'll veer off left and right. So let's just start and see where we go, shall we? A record from your favourite record shop?
Well, I'd like to cover 2 record shops, if I may. I'd like to talk because I have a favourite record shop here, in Spain, where I am now, and there's a favourite record shop in Brighton, which is kind of part of quite a lot of people's DNA, I think, which it would be remiss not to talk about. My favourite shop here in Spain is about 5 hours up the road in Salamanca, a place called Ramal, which is like it's about as big as this dining room, which you can't really see, but maybe you can kind of get an idea of the size from the sound. It's not a very big shop.
Right.
The guy that runs it has taken really good care to treat the room so that it sounds good. All that's in there is a record player, a couple of, I can't remember what make, really nice speakers, a big curtain on one wall to stop it from being echoey, and like a big table in the middle of the room with like about 8 boxes of records, nicely chosen stuff, new stuff, secondhand stuff, and it's a lovely shop, really great place to sort of spend time. You can just go in, have a coffee.
How do you get there from yours if it's 5 hours away?
I have to get the bus up there if I want to go, and if I want to actually go to the shop, which obviously hasn't happened for I haven't been there for over a year now. In fact, I think I was last there about 2 years ago.
That is hardcore vinyl snaffling to catch a 5-hour bus to go to a record shop.
Well, I have other reasons to go to Salamanca as well, but if I am ever in Salamanca, I'm definitely going to be in that. I'm definitely going to go to that shop. Right. There's not as far as I can tell, there's not an equivalent here in Saragossa. So,
right.
Well, what's really nice about it is a lot like the other shop I'm going to mention, is that the kind of place that you can go in, you can ask the owner Ellie to put on a record. You can sit there and listen to records with him and have coffee and and buy something if you want to. But you can buy something if you want to. But it's about I think it's sort of the purpose of the shop is more about just spreading the kind of love and enthusiasm for the music that he loves, and trying to meet like-minded sort of people. So it has a really nice and I did some mail order, but, because of the pandemic I haven't been able to go up there. Done some mail order over the last sort of 12 months. A few of the things that I've got off them have been this has been my one main record of choice from Ramal, because it's one of my favourite records. I never had it on vinyl until last year. Last Splash by the Breeders. Kim Deal's my hero. And
is that sorry, does he do secondhand in there, or is that a new press of that record?
He does secondhand stuff, but this is the most recent repress. I think it's pretty much as the original was, but it's a recent repress, just standard black vinyl. Still one of my favourite albums ever. I only ever had it on CD up until last year, and I thought I desperately need some new records to play because I only have a handful here from my collection, and that was just like, okay, I saw he had it in, and I thought I've got to get that. At the same time, I got this, which I've wanted for years, Duty Now for the Future. Right. I prefer it to the first Devo album. I don't know if that's blasphemy for some people.
Right.
Yeah, I prefer it. And the Las Vegas Story by the Gun Club. Picked that up in there. That's second hand as well.
Yeah,
great stop.
I've only recently been getting into the gun club when Tim, who I spoke to yesterday on this, he was a fan of the gun club and he would play it in the van, and I didn't get it at all. And then I don't know, when one day it just totally clicked. It was really odd. Like
One of those bands.
I heard where so many bands being picked up the influence from it, and it just clicked. Everything just made sense like that.
It's weird. I think they're one of those bands that, for me, they always sound better when somebody else puts them on. You know, when someone else plays a gun club record, my ears always prick up, and I go, "What's that? That's great," you know. And I watched that documentary on them and really enjoyed it. But when I own a couple of records by them, but when I put them on myself, it doesn't have the same effect. That doesn't quite have the same effect on me. I don't know if you have relationships like that with any particular band.
I probably do. It's almost like you don't trust yourself. You trust someone else more. Like, with the gun club as well, when I eventually got into them, like I say, only a couple of years ago, it threw my whole thing about the Pixies out the window, because I always thought the Pixies were like kind of massively original. And then when I heard the gun club, I was like, oh, that's where you're getting that from, you know, and that bit there and this bit.
I come to think of it, I think, I can hear that. I think.
Yeah, I was quite surprised that so I was slow to them anyway. Yeah. And with the Breeders, I like the first two Breeders albums are classics, but I actually really like the third one as well.
Title TK.
Yeah,
I love that as well.
Yeah.
I wouldn't really want to choose. You know, a lot of people say, "Oh, it's all about pod," but I wouldn't really want to choose between those first three Breeders albums and the Amps album as well.
Yeah, I was going to say the Amps,
which I think belongs in the same bit of the record collection, of course. You know.
Did you see the Amps when they played Brighton?
No, I was just a little bit too young for that. I was like 15, so I wasn't quite catching. Oh, I was already catching the train up to gigs in Tunbridge Wells then, but crucially, you couldn't get back to Hastings from Brighton if you wanted to stay to the end of the gig, and I've never been able to bring myself to leave a gig early to catch a train, which has led to a few disasters. But at 15, I wasn't going to spend the night on Brighton Beach, you know.
Not a mod.
Never have been a mod.
No. I saw them. They played with Guided by Voices. That's when I saw them. And I think Chavez maybe as well.
It would have been that. Yeah, it was that tour. I think it was 95 or 96. So I was 15 or 16. I did see Guided by Voices at Reading 95 because I went to that with my dad, and that was.
I think I was there. I was there as well. Yeah.
It's funny how many people say I've spoken to who said they were there, because I remember there only being not many people.
There weren't many people. That tent was in the tent, wasn't it? And
and it was early. They were one of the first bands on, and I made a concerted effort to go and see them purely because I'd read about them in the program.
Yeah,
it said these are like dudes who are 40 years old who do, 2-minute minus songs on 4-track and boombox, and I had a 4-track at the time. I had a 4-track for a couple of years, so I was instantly like, well, they sound like I should check them out, and I went and saw them, and was instantly became a lifelong fan of that group.
Yeah, it's always the thing with that band is the difference between the albums and the live show, like especially then when like it was like your B1000 era and it was like massively lo-fi, and then you go and watch them live and it's like the Who.
Yeah. You know. So my first experience of them was live, and then we'll come back to Guided by Voices maybe.
Actually, in that, whilst we're in Brighton, then if it's okay, I'll just quickly jump in with a record that I picked up on the day that we met.
Okay.
And we met on. Does it have a date on it? Well, it's 1998. I know that.
It was 1998. It was at the Brighton Crawl in 1998 on Brighton Seafront.
Yeah, May 1998. And if you bought a ticket for the Brighton Crawl, you got this record.
Right. Oh, that's not what I thought you were going to get out, actually. Because I didn't get a copy of that. I think you had to get your ticket early. Like the first 500 people who got a ticket to it got the record, and I never got one.
But yeah, so that was the record, and I kept, weirdly and miraculously, is the program for it. in there. And my memory of the good bands that I saw was Jad Fair and Fridge. I don't see Fridge on here, but Fridge definitely played. Yeah, Fridge.
I saw Fridge at that.
And Hood played. You can't probably
Yeah,
make. Yeah. Can you make any of that out or not? Is it totally fuzzy?
I can. Oh, hold on. Let me see. Small Black Pig, Electric Sound of Joy. I can't. Do you know? I can't remember. I remember I saw Plone.
Yeah.
I saw Buffalo Daughter. Tried to go and see Movie Tone. That was the band I really wanted to see, but I couldn't get into the church. We couldn't get in there.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, there's interestingly Twinkie played, which is Elvis's band from up in Lords. So this is but that's when we met, and you were with. That's
the bit that's my abiding memory of that day, is meeting you and Elisa on the seafront, because you were there selling. You had a box of the first Stanton 7-inch, and which immediately sort of made me curious. There were, two people standing there, almost. You were like, I can't remember if you or Elisa was kind of shouting, "Get your Stanton 7-inch here" or something.
Yeah, we had no money. We'd won the tickets for that on XFM.
Wow, okay.
So otherwise we wouldn't have been able to go anyway. We had no money down there. We had the box of the records. We just put all our money into releasing this 7-inch, which was the first Johnson family release in '98. And we had no cash. So to finance the whole day, and don't tell the rest of the band this, I'm sure they won't watch, but we financed the day by selling this box of Stanton 7-inches, only £2 each or something.
£1.50.
Was it £1.50?
£1.50.
Right. So there we are. Yeah. Punk rock prices. But you were with Joff and Andy, right?
I was, yeah.
Yeah. I can't remember who else you were with, but it was those two and
Andrew Blaney and Caroline, whose surname I can't remember, but Andrew Blaney I'm still in touch with.
Right. So Joff and Andy were in 10-5 Newton with a fella called Jez.
Yep.
And
right.
Well, I thought they were a great band.
Yeah, they were. I mean, they were. And Joff and Andy were kind of. I'd met them a couple of years previously. They were a couple of the only other DIY rockers in Hastings at the time. I think sort of about 10 years older than me, and I'd met them, and they'd kind of taken me under their wing a little bit. And took me to all kinds of great shows. I saw Fugazi with those guys, and with you as well. Sort of Shellac a couple of times with them, and with you as well.
That was 2 nights running, wasn't it?
Sorry?
That was 2 nights running, wasn't it? It was Stratford with Fugazi and Shellac, and then the following night was just Shellac, wasn't it? Somewhere on Tottenham Court Road.
Yeah, the Embassy Rooms. For us, it was 3 nights running, because we went to see Fugazi in Brighton as well the night before the London gig, or a couple of nights before. But we had a little kind of, we had a kind of long weekend driving around from, going from Hastings to Brighton and then up to London, and hanging out with you up there and watching those bands. Coming from Hastings as and being 18. Not a lot going on there. It was really great having a couple of mates who were, who would go into these things and like I said, took me under their wing and gave me a lot of good opportunities, sort of, they were introducing me to other music as well all the time. In the van or in the car or whatever, there'd always be a tape of something on that I'd never heard before.
And I'm right in thinking you ended up playing with 10-5 Newton.
Yeah, well, Jez couldn't make some gigs, sort of, I think even left the band for a bit.
Yeah.
And I filled in for a few gigs, and that was like a real baptism of fire for me. That was taught me a lot about playing guitar. I had to sort of really up my game to be able to play with those guys. Yeah, because
Jez always played sort of surfy, didn't he? I always thought it was kind of surfy guitar. Did you play with them when? I'm pretty sure you did, but my memory isn't as good as some other people's. You played with them when they supported Unwound.
I did, yeah, which was amazing for me because I loved Unwound. Joff and Andy weren't. They liked the band, but they weren't as fans as much as I was. But and that was the first time I played a gig in London and played at like I only really ever played almost kind of pay to play type things in Hastings before that, I think.
Yeah.
Or maybe quite a few support gigs at the Forum in Tunbridge Wells, but that was like the first time that we played, or that I'd ever played a gig in front of, I don't know whether it was Silver Rocket then, but it was certainly that kind of crowd that became the Silver Rocket crowd in London. And
yeah, for some reason I got it in my head. It was a Sunday night, and I don't know I don't know if that's right or not. And because Elise and I went, and maybe some others, but I got proof of me being there because there's a picture of me right next to Vern when he's playing the bass, because he was one of my bass playing sort of. Every bass player should have Vern Rumsey as their bass playing hero, right?
Yeah, he was one of the. He's just really inventive and kind of melodic, and everything he does on the bass is really cool. And
yeah, exactly.
Cool kind of watch it. The way his hands moved almost seemed to be.
He was so damn cool. and like the Blonde Redhead album he plays on, is it Fate Can Be Just As Good?
Yeah.
Like probably maybe their best album, and it sounds like a Vern Rumsey album because he's all over it, and it's like proper power.
Indelible on
that. yeah. Oh, so just quickly then, the name of that record shop in Spain again
is Ramal, Ramal, in Salamanca. If you're ever in Salamanca, go and see Ellie in Ramal. Have a coffee, listen to some cool music in a cool place, and and probably talk about it quite a lot as well, and have a good chat with Ellie about music.
That's what you want from a record shop, isn't it?
So, yeah, indeed, yeah.
And you had
another record shop that is my other favourite is probably quite predictably Edgeworld Records, which was a shop in Brighton. Before that, it was a kind of travelling one-man record shop that used to turn up in Hastings in the back room of pubs once a month. And Colin's another great, kind of, he's like a really important link in the chain of getting cool music to people who might be interested in it. He'll definitely sort of figure out what you're into and make sure that you know about anything that comes through his hands that might be relevant to you. And I have a memory of listening to John Peel, hearing the last track off of this album, What You Love You Are or Whatever You Love You Are by the Dirty Three, and then going to see Colin at his next date in Hastings, Saturday morning in the back room of a pub, and with the intention of buying it, and walking through the door and Colin just sort of popping up from behind his table and boxes of records, and completely unprompted, just kind of holding us up and going,
you want this?
Holding it up and going, is this what you're after? And being, surprised. Yes, that is exactly what I need to, that's exactly what I came here to get off of you. And I've got...
Yeah, the Dirty Three, Australian?
Yes. Yeah. Australian group. I've seen them live, I think 3 times. The first time's probably the most memorable. That was in Brighton as well. Completely magic. And all 3 of them just incredible players, really inspirational in the way they approach their instruments. Particularly the guitar player for me, but because being a guitar player, but all 3 of them just unique players.
Am I right in thinking that one or more of them was in the band Venom P. Stinger before that?
I think the guitar player and the drummer. I've still never heard Venom P. Stinger, but I've heard good things about them. My friends Dom and Amy recommend them heartily.
Yeah. Check them out. I think Drag City reissued the 2 albums and the 7-inch recently. Well, I picked them up like that. I also picked up the double CD, so I did the old CD for the car, vinyl for the house. But yeah, there, you know, there we are. It's a lineage there. It's strong stuff. It's good. It's really good.
To be able to listen to that in any situation, and so you've got to have the formats covered on that one.
Exactly. I do. yeah. But Colin's obviously so Colin, who ran Edgeworld, is still doing it. He also puts gigs on in Brighton under Tatty Seaside Town. Still does it.
Yeah.
I speak to him regularly. I first met him not through music but through football.
Yeah, small world.
Yeah, mentally small, because we support the same team, and
Brentford.
Started hanging out in a pub near Brentford, chatting, and he had his son with him, and his son at the time was about 8. I know, right? I'm 100. He was 8, and it's just weird, like, because that's Barney, and he's grown up and up and up, and now he's in a band, Lower Slaughter, and he's as good a friend as Colin is, and it's just so weird how it's just gone boom. We're all in it together, and it's great, of course.
I first met Barney at that Fugazi show in Brighton. Colin was there, and Barney was about 12, I think, at the time, and they were stood at the side of the stage because I think Colin knew the promoter, and it said it was over 18s only, the gig, but he said, I want to bring my 12-year-old son to this gig, and they said, you can bring him as long as you don't go out into the audience. You can watch the gig from the side of the stage. So that was the first time I met Barney, and Colin introduced me and said, this is my son Barney, and sort of looked at me and went, you got to learn him up, haven't you? You know how Colin talks. You've got to learn him up, haven't you? With the wink. Because he did quite successfully, because Barney's very much sort of part of the.
I'm speaking to him in a couple of episodes' time. So.
Good stuff.
And I'm gonna push to speak to Colin as well. I think that'd be a fun one to talk records.
I think we should. Yeah, Colin needs to start telling his side of his version of events.
Exactly. Everyone's talking for him. But I meant another thing is when we did the 10-minute men sessions, which were the John Peel nights we did. Luckily got invited on to play like live on John Peel's show, and it was 5 bands, and this is for another story, but a few like people were allowed in as well that weren't band people, and Colin was there, and this is 2000 and what are we talking, 2002
I think the first one was.
And Colin was there with Barney, and I remember because Barney turned up in a Melvins t-shirt.
Right.
I still remember it, and because I think it was a Melvins, like the Kiss logo sort of style Melvins t-shirt, and I remember thinking, Christ, that kid's like 10 and he's in this Melvins t-shirt. It's like, that's not what I was doing when I was 10. Cool. Let's move on to the next thing. I've got here a record with memories, and this is insane because every record has memories, and I'm saying this every time as well. I mean, it might even need to change this category, but for now, record with memories.
Well, because I mentioned them earlier on, this again, I only got this on vinyl very recently from mail order, lockdown mail order. Finally, it's been repressed. I only ever had it on CD before and couldn't afford like 50 quid for a second-hand copy. But Vampire on Titus by Guided by Voices, first album of theirs that I got a copy of, having seen them live.
Right.
The CD came with Propeller.
Yeah, well, that's the one I've got. That's the one I've got.
In the end, which initially I preferred Propeller, but over the years, this has come to be my favourite GBV record. I got it about a year after seeing them live, and I was on holiday in Wales with my girlfriend at the time. So this just reminds me of being out in the countryside in Wales. Taking long baths in this cottage that we were staying in with a little boom box, listening to GBV in the bath, and it's the kind of record that it's a whole. All of their records, all of their classic records, are kind of a world of their own that you can disappear into, and
like they had such a hot run. Like sort of early to mid 90s through to for about 10 years. Like Alien Lanes and Backwards and a bit forwards, like big big run they had of
Yeah.
solid gold.
For me, it goes from this to around about Under the Bushes, Under the Stars, and all of those EPs that they put out, those like 7 inches, which are like an album in themselves, like a really short album, you know, 7 inches with like 7 songs on them. I think I might have pulled out, if it was here with me, I would have pulled out the Get Out of My Station's 7-inch, which I think is probably my favourite record by them of all.
And did the Breeders cover them as well? Did they?
Yeah, the Breeders
Iron
did
Man Rally.
Gleamtown. Breeders did Shocker and Gleamtown.
Right. Yeah.
On the B-side of Head to Toe. They did cover of that, and they made a video for it, which has got, if you watch the video for their cover of it, they're in like a rehearsal room playing this great song, and then these, you know, old hairy, you know, weathered rockers are kind of peering in through the window at them, get the guy looking really unimpressed, and that's actually Guided by Voices.
Right.
You know, looking like they're, you know, not impressed with these, you know, these folks covering their tune, their big hit.
Yeah. Isn't there am I right in thinking that the first or second Strokes song, there's in the Strokes video, they're playing like a panel game show, and it's Strokes on one side and Guided by Voices are playing them?
Yes, now you mention it, I think I have seen that. Yeah. So maybe they hold the record for the band that's appeared in the most other bands' videos.
Yeah, like cameo appearances. Get Guided by Voices in. Yeah, no, but that's one of those bands that it's the same in this house. Is that they're really like a point, like a 10-year period in our life where we saw them a lot, we listened to them a lot, and you just need to hear his voice and that sort of sound, and you're like, oh, you're totally transported back to that peak period in your life when you're following them all around.
I only ever saw them that one time, which I think was their first ever UK gig, I think, according to the
Reading Festival.
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, really?
I think it might have been their first ever appearance in the UK, according to the book. According to that, have you read Hunting Accidents? Have you read that book?
No.
Great book.
Right.
Written by Jim Greer, who was a rock critic at the time, but actually played bass in the band around that time. He played bass at that Reading Festival gig, and he appears on the cover of Alien Lanes, and was with them for a bit.
Right. Okay. I didn't know that was their first gig. My timeline is a bit skew-if because we did see them a lot, especially at the garage and places like that. They played a lot.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm not going to swear to it, but I think it was their first.
Yeah, you're probably right. Yeah. Okay. Bargain Find.
Bargain Find.
Bargain Find.
This is one that you guys talked about yesterday, but I found this in a secondhand shop in Hastings called ASM Music. I found Loveless in there for £3, and it was in like the classic rock section or something, just under M. You know, it wasn't in like the indie rock section or anything like that. I don't think the guy that ran it, Graham, his name was, although everybody referred to him as Fat Elvis, because he looked like he even had the appropriate facial hair to look, the chops like like Elvis's kind of Vegas period. But I found this in there for £3. I also found Spirit of Eden by Talk for £3 in there. Both records that were out of print at the time and became like really hard to get hold of and quite expensive. £3 for each of those was my.
So I'm taking this is pre-Discogs,
This would have been in like the late 90s, around that sort of same time, about 99. And in that same shop in Hastings, both of these were a bit pricier, but given the amount of times that I've played them, I think the £10 that I spent on each of them really represents value for money. Third La Bradford album, first self-titled one.
Yeah, it's a great record.
It's just again, it's another record that just takes you into its own world.
I've been listening to them lately. I've been listening to La Bradford quite a bit lately. I don't know why. I've come back to them. Sort of dubby.
transportative, I think, particularly this one. And what I really like about it is this kind of choice of, you can choose which front cover you have, because it's got this kind of window in the, so you've got two different front covers. I think that's the grille of like a classic American car, if I'm right, or this kind of bridge structure. You've got that choice.
And is it blast first? Is it blast
this first? This is blast first. I guess it was on Cranky in America or something, and blast first in the UK. So it's the UK copy of it. And I just, I spent a tenner on that, kind of on, because I'd seen the name of the band, and it was one, it was rare that you would find the kind of records that you would read about in Melody Maker or whatever, in the shop. So I just picked it up based on that, and absolutely love it. Still absolutely love it.
Yeah.
And then this one as well, that Guv'nor, Hard for Me, Easy for You.
Right, I don't
know. This is great, man. You should check this record out. It's I think everybody I've ever played this record to has ended up buying a copy of it.
What label is it on?
Guv'nor.
Yeah.
Guv''Ner.
And what record label released it?
This is on Ecstatic Peace. So this, to find something on Ecstatic Peace in a second-hand shop in Hastings.
First and Moore's label, right?
Sorry?
First and Moore's label.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really cool, like sort of angular, grungy songs, but kind of slightly lo-fi production. Really good kind of sense of melody and playfulness to it.
What's happening on the cover? They're ice skating. Oh yeah, it took me a while to work out what the hell was going on there. Okay, yeah.
And her name's Pumpkin Wenzel, which is like, reason enough to buy the record. Yeah. Again, I bought it having never heard the band, having only just seen, reviews in the Melody Maker. And
would you pick up a record based on the label that it was on? Like if that's on First and Moore's label, if you looked at it, you thought, okay, yeah, this could be intriguing for a $5 or whatever.
I didn't really do that at the time. I didn't know enough. I don't think I didn't really. That wasn't sort of what I looked out for. Maybe I think at that point, perhaps like Discord or Matador might have been. I might have sort of assumed that if I saw that on a record, that it might be something that I was into.
Yeah,
that's late 90s, early 2000s.
Right.
But no, it was sort of later on that I got into considering, more about what the label logo on a record might kind of mean.
Because it's odd to me how some labels have that sort of, people will buy everything on it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in our world, I think of a label like Rocket or even Riot Season, I think that people follow those labels and will pay but then there's other labels, and if I name them, it might be bad, but say Rock Action, maybe.
Okay.
If I think of a label like that, I think, okay, Mogwai's on them, but you might not buy everything on Rock Action. I'm not saying they're bad records, but it's just odd how some labels seem curated specifically, and they hit their target like release after release. And some are more like, oh yeah, now we're going to do a hip hop record, and now we're going to do a hardcore record, and so you might not buy them all, but there's more. I kind of like it. I kind of like both sides of it. It's just interesting to me that some labels are going.
Well, some labels are kind of more, maybe have a slightly broader remit, but I still think there's usually still some kind of thread that can. Maybe for some labels it's got something more to do with kind of attitude rather than the actual style of music, or attitude or background.
So I picked this one because I think when I listen to especially Charlottefield, this is one of the bands that I sort of have in the back of my mind as being something that perhaps you liked at the time. Feel free to tell me otherwise. But it's on a label that you've just mentioned that people maybe even still do, but certainly did really tuck into heavily, and it's the.
Oh yeah, I mean that was that was one of my favourites.
On a really small Discord, it's really blurry. There we are, Discord Records. But yeah,
Yeah, they weren't making a point of they weren't, you know, they did that with well, they do that with Dignity, I think. Discord, they don't sort of,
Yeah.
they don't ram it down your throat.
Yeah. With a one-sided insert just with the lyrics. Yeah. But yeah, it's a band I often think of when I think of, if I'm to think of bands that Charlottefield would have definitely listened to at some point, I've always thought Hoover were up there, and I love this record.
I think for me, it was more of a touchstone than maybe some of the other guys in the band. But I still think that's a great record, and the one they did after it, which I think I've got my copy of off of you. In fact, I think you gave me that copy of the second Hoover record at some point in the late 90s as a present. And I still, you know, it's in France at the moment, but if it were here, I'd be playing it.
Yeah, and I love the tour van pictures. More bands need to do the tour van pictures. Look at that. You've gone all around America in something that looks like it's going to break down at any second the whole time.
Was there not a Melvins tour van that got auctioned off or something recently?
Yeah. Oh, with graffiti all over it. Is that the one? I think I might have seen that. Yeah.
Can't remember what I saw.
Yeah, but anyhow, sorry. Yeah, there we are. I will occasionally drop a record in while we're talking. We're going to go for a record that you bought on tour.
Yeah, this was a bit difficult for me to find much in this way. And I haven't really done tour shopping as much as maybe as you have, but I did find this in a second-hand shop in Amsterdam.
Right.
Didn't sell this kind of music at all. I found it in the box under the racks. You know, it seemed like they didn't really know what they had here.
Yeah.
And I found this. So I got this for £1 on tour in Amsterdam in 2008.
And what record is it?
It's Electric Storm by the White Noise.
I do not know it. I don't know.
It's like, when did it come out? 1969.
Right.
It's the main two people behind it are David Vorhaus and Delia Derbyshire, who I think
BBC woman. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So it's like it's influential kind of electronic. I mean, there are songs on it that are kind of pop songs, but just with weird kind of crazy electronic instruments and tape editing and all kinds of techniques that would have been, you know, kind of unthinkable at the time.
And did you know what you were buying?
I did, yeah. And because in fact, actually, I already the record itself is what I bought in there. It was just the record in the sleeve. I already had a copy of it that I paid like much more for in a crap second-hand shop in Tunbridge Wells, Camden Classics, where the records were always overpriced and really badly graded. So I bought a copy, and it was basically unlistenable. It was just super scratchy. And then I found this other copy of it. Didn't know if it was going to. In fact, it looks a lot worse. It's got, I don't know if you can see, but it's got hairlines all over it. It looks a lot worse, but it plays a lot better. And for like €1 or whatever it was.
That's a great pickup. And what? So this is 2008.
Yeah, that would be 2008.
So we're talking early Sweet Williams tour?
No, last Charlottefield tour.
Okay. Right.
But the first person that played me this record was John Richards, who you used to play with in Colosse. He had it on CD in the late 90s, so I'd been hearing it since then. And he was quite. He was always introducing me to something that I'd never heard before.
He's always had really good taste in music, John.
He does have excellent taste in music.
Yeah, actually, on that note, seeing as we've mentioned him, I want to mention a record that he's on. I think you joined this band after this, and I think it's an enormously underrated record. It's from Tunbridge Wells, and it's the Joey Fat album.
Yeah, Fall of the House of the Fat.
Yeah, it comes in like bubble wrap sleeve.
Yeah, it looks beautiful. 111 copies of that.
100 copies, exactly. 111. Okay, it comes with all these inserts. I think it's got the bits that went with the CD. It's got some other writing and some but it's a brilliant record.
Yeah.
I genuinely think it's anyway. I think so. John's on this record, right? He's in the band.
Yeah, he's all over that record. I mean,
yeah,
his guitar playing on that, absolutely beautiful. And he was on the Unhome record before it.
Yes.
Excuse me, which is also on label. Some of the same people that are in Joey Fat. So there's like a similar kind of engine room between those two bands. And yeah, his guitar playing. I think I was talking to Rick about him the other day and talking about how big an influence he was on me as a person and a musician, you know. But I would probably say that that Joey Fat record is one of the most important. I would call it like a life-changing record. But I think by the time that came out, they'd kind of already the change in my life that they'd affected had already kind of taken place because I'd been going to see him. So it was more of kind of the record for me was more about kind of capturing this thing that had happened rather than it being the catalyst for a big change.
Yeah, I felt like it was an important record at the time. It comes with a beautiful booklet as well.
Yeah.
Like
libretto. Does it say libretto on the front?
Yeah, with like, and this is just, and they pressed 111 of them.
Yeah,
I think it's probably readily available on CD still. I guess.
It's on Bandcamp as well. It's on,
right.
You can get the digital download if you're into that.
Yeah, so it's called House of Fat. It's by Joey Fat.
Yeah.
And also, I've there's a band doing the rounds at the minute who are very popular, Six Music wise, called Black Country New Road.
Okay, my nephew liked them. He said my nephew Sonny saw them in, I think at a festival in. I always get confused. Is it End of the Road Festival? Maybe he went to a couple of years ago and saw them, and he came back saying that they were really great. I still haven't heard them though.
People like them, and that's but they sound to me exactly like Joey Fat.
I've noticed a few groups sounding a bit Joey Fat lately.
Yeah, in particular that band is no bad thing because it's a good band to be really, really. They might not even realise they're being influenced by them. I think it's been filtered somehow to get to them, but it's got to them, and so people need to check the hell out. Yeah. Anyhow,
who's the kind of main composer? He's the bass player in that group, and is the main composer. Is like another person who's kind of approach to music. I first met him when I was 15, and he was really encouraging towards me about being in bands and writing songs and things. And I was always really fascinated by the way that he composed a lot of the Joey Fat stuff, and it was really cool to meet him because he was really sort of gracious and encouraging and generous with his knowledge and his kind of his thoughts about his approach to writing stuff. And I think that I had another person who had an indelible effect on everything.
And you ended up playing in Joey Fat, right?
I did, yeah, which was a bit like well, it's it's a bit like playing for your favourite football team. I always say Joey Fat because I don't have a football team that I support. Joey Fat are kind of my football team.
Yeah.
They're the band that I'll, if I had to pick one, you're
going to fight on the terraces for Joey Fat. Is that what you're saying?
I will. Yeah, I will. Yeah.
And did you? And how long were you in the band for? Did you record anything with them?
I was in the group for about 5 years. At the time, there was an album being recorded. To be honest with you, I'm not sure how much of what I recorded for that remains on the finished record, because there were there's an album, the album after that, Suit of Lights, was kind of pieced together from different sessions, and it was all sort of remixed and reconstituted by somebody who joined the band or who worked with the band after I'd left. So I don't know, my name's on that record, but I don't know how much of my guitar was on there.
There's an enormous.
There's bits of it that I think are me, but that I'm informed by other people have actually been replaced by this other person. So I don't know if I'm on the record.
It doesn't sound like a lovely story, but we'll gloss over it.
It was great being in the band. Like, recording was a bit frustrating, and that was more to do with circumstance at the time. It was quite an unwieldy band, lots of people scattered all over different parts of the world, lots of sort of difficulty actually getting together to rehearse and work up new songs. So I don't hold any of that against anybody by any means, because they just wanted to get a record made and had to do it by whatever means necessary. But it is a bit unfortunate that I didn't get to be on. You know, I would have loved to have played guitar. If I'd have been in a band like 5 years earlier, I would have been on House of the Fat, and that's a great record.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah. Where are we? Bargain Find you did. Bought on Tour you did. Record that people wouldn't think that you would dig.
I find this one a bit difficult, because I think probably most of the folks who might watch this have probably got fairly Catholic tastes in music. I know, you know, so it's not going to, you know, I don't know if it would come as a great surprise to anybody.
Nirvana.
That I can't, you know, that I don't just listen to rock music or guitar music or anything. But I've got a couple here. Couple of records that I inherited from my mother that I was actually listening to last night. Island Life by Grace Jones. Yeah. Particularly like side 2 of that, because it's got Pull Up to the Bumper on it.
Yeah.
And My Jamaican Guy was the kind of sleeper hit last night that I really enjoyed.
Right. Quite an album cover, isn't it? Quite
second to last. Yeah, I mean, you can't. You've got to listen to that, haven't you? If you see the sleeve, what's that going to be like?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's really cool, and maybe a bit of a kind of guilty pleasure, but again inherited off my mother. Telegraph Road by Dire Straits off Love Old, which I really enjoyed listening to last night.
Yeah, the first record I ever bought was Dire Straits.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Which record? Which album?
Communique.
That's the second one, right?
I believe it's their second one. So Dire Straits was their first, then Communique, and then maybe Making Movies or that, and then the other way around, and then they went big with Brothers in Arms, I guess.
Okay, yeah.
But yeah.
I don't know if this is before or after Brothers in Arms, this one. I don't know.
Oh, okay. I can't pretend to be an expert, I must admit. Not on Dire Straits or anything.
I've got a couple of others here that might be interesting. This came out last year, Meridian Brothers, Cumbia Siglo. Cumbia Siglo 21.
Yeah, I've seen people talk about that, or maybe just you, but I've seen a few people talk about that.
Okay.
Very positively.
It's really good. It's not a style of music that I've ever really delved into before. I stumbled on it while just trawling through stuff on Bandcamp last year.
Yeah. What's the band called again?
A cover of Meridian Brothers.
Meridian Brothers, right?
Yeah. And there's a dodgy cover of Son of a Preacher Man on it, but apart from that, it's really great, weird. Again, it's like kind of playful, but it's very playful, but kind of dark as well.
Right.
In places. I just really like it. It was, you know, when you hear types of or genres of music that you haven't really explored before, they can kind of open your ears up in a different way.
And what record label's it on?
It's on Bongo Joe.
Sweet name.
Bongo Joe Records.
That's going to be my name from now on.
Yeah. Bongo Joe, maybe. Bongo's what we call Bono here. Because of that Beefheart. When I say here, I'm talking about me and my neighbour, Sergio, who lives on the other side of that wall and can probably hear me talking now. Because of that letter that Beefheart wrote to Bono saying don't ever come, dear Bongo, don't contact me again. So yeah, he gets mentioned daily, hourly, maybe. Yeah, Bongo. There's another record you might not think I'm into. The Unforgettable Fire by U2. I still think that's still really like that record.
Do you think stuff like that and Dire Straits and whatnot is from, you know, when you were 10 or something, and it's just sort of been carved into your soul a little because it would have been?
Yeah, well, I have, you know, I was into music, and music was always on in our house, and I was introduced to a lot of stuff as a kid, like good and bad. But like when I was 11, I saw The Fly by U2 on Top of the Pops, and thought it was the coolest thing ever. And that's sort of like that was like a eureka moment for me. It was like, oh wow, guitars, rock music. That's definitely that's where everything is now going. So I still have a sort of soft spot for that record. But I went back and checked out all the other stuff that they'd done to that point. My cousin Andy, about 10 years, another guy who's about 10 years older than me or so, taped The Unforgettable Fire for me, and yeah, I really loved that one. It's this good atmosphere, you know, good kind of atmospheric production on it, and some interesting stuff. I still love it.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. We've all got our crosses to bear, haven't we? from our like very, very young youth. Like, I was just talking with Tim and Rue yesterday about like certain 80s music and sounds, and the way it, like, if you know, when you're 10, like I was 10 in 1984, so anything that was in the top 20 or top 40 in 1984, from like Eurythmics to Human League to everything else, if I hear it now, I'm just inside, I'm kind of over the moon. You know, it really floods me back to taping the top 40 with my little cassette player. And you know, certainly, you know, there's a song called The Lebanon that really, every time I hear it, I'm like immediately back in my bedroom at the age of 10, or you know, or
Human League or Heaven 17 or one of those groups.
Yeah, exactly. I love all like you know, Penthouse and Pavement, that record, or ABC, or any of those. If I see any of them for £1 now, I just buy them immediately. Just
Dare and Dare by Human League and Lexicon of Love by ABC were two sort of in-car classics when I was a kid.
Exactly. And you can pick them up for £1 or £2 in virtually every record shop, you know. And it amazes me when they get reissued and they're like £25. You know, why is anyone paying £25 for this? There's shops full of this crap for like £1.
Yeah, and you see like Phil Collins and Genesis records being repressed on Record Store Day, and you can get an original pressing that was probably cut directly from an analog 2-track tape, you know, in the best possible way, you know, in the kind of cleanest possible way.
Yeah,
for £2 in Oxfam, or you can pay for a newly remastered version that may or may not sound marginally better for like £25.
Exactly. It's insanity. The last one I've got here is favorite 10-inch record. Do you have any 10-inch records in Spain?
I don't really have many of my. I've got quite a few 10s that I really love, and loads came to mind. I think Rue already pointed out on this show yesterday. He picked out the Slint 10-inch, which is
big,
kind of it's a touchstone, obviously. One that I've been thinking of quite a lot. I've got this. It's another Le Bradford record. It's a single off that album that I showed you earlier on, but the B-side of it is called Underwood 5, and I think that's just brilliant, even though it's just one song. Got the Melvins 10-inch with the Eggnog 10-inch with that one long track, Charmy Carmy Cat.
Is that like got the Christmas wrapping on the front?
Yeah. But that long track on that, I think, is incredible. Slates by The Fall. That's an amazing 10-inch. You know?
We've got The Fall on show just for you here. There we go.
Well, the only actual 10-inch that I do have here that I can really talk about is by The Fall as well. Their final album, which I got quite recently through mail order. It's called New Facts Emerge, double 10-inch LP. I recently I was into The Fall in a big way during during the Charlottefield, we all were. That was would have been the most played band in the van. You know, it was one of the groups that we all agreed on were just phenomenal. And there's so much of their stuff. You know, there's such a rich seam of music there so you can kind of live on the Fool in a tour van. You know, you listen to nothing but the Fool and not get bored because there's so much of it. And so much of it is still just kind of endlessly fascinating. But by the time they like that final period of the group where the lineup stayed the same, more or less the same, for about 5 or 6 albums in a row, I think one of the more recent albums that kind of turned me off a little bit. There was one that I didn't particularly engage with, so I'd sort of stopped checking out their new stuff. Yeah. And only recently went back and checked out that whole last stretch of their lifespan, the final lineup of the band, and realised that those last few records, there's some of their best records. I think this is you know, it's probably in your top 15 Fall albums. Which is no small compliment, you know.
I'm a massive fan of Your Future, Our Clutter.
Yeah, I mean that for me, that's the period that I'm talking about. I missed that at the time, and I'm kicking myself for missing it, because now I would put that, you know, in the top 3 Fall records. I think that's just genius.
It is, and in particular, the Berry parts 1 to 4 or whatever, however they name it on the album, where it has like about 12 full starts before it finally kicks in about 5 minutes. It's brilliant.
Yeah. I love that. I love the way that you know, through all periods of the band. So you've got to think this is actually Marquis Smith's kind of big sort of his influence on what they were doing. There are always these songs that seem to be sort of cobbled together or collaged together in a really weird way.
Yeah.
You know, with different versions of stuff playing out of different speakers or whatever, or just really bizarre instrumentation or stripped out mixes. And I think there's some, you know, right from the very beginning to the very end of the Fall, even with all the countless lineup changes, there's that kind of seam throughout the group that I think is possibly one of the most interesting aspects of the band and their music.
Yeah,
and there's a great one of those on here. There's a song on here called "Couples versus Jobless Mid-30s." That's like you know, that's one of their sort of great.
I tell you what, I do not know that. Yeah, I don't know that album. And what do you think of double 10-inch as a format for an album?
It's a bit inconvenient, to be honest, but I think with this, you know, with a single 12-inch, you can get like maybe 45 minutes on a record before it starts to, you know, unless you've got a really good cutting engineer who can get around all kinds of things, and more than 45 minutes, it's going to start to sound quite ropey. So if you fall in that, you know, like if you've got an album that's maybe a little bit longer than that, but not long enough to be a double 12-inch, maybe, which this qualifies as, you know, it's probably about like 55 minutes long in total or something. Too long for a single 12-inch, too short for a double 12-inch.
I bet they did the old. Bet they had a big meeting about whether to do a 3-sided LP. You know, like
with the etching.
Yeah, like I've got a Grails record that does it. It's got a really beautiful side 4, like just a picture, and a Pavement Wowie Zowie's 3-sided, isn't it?
I've got a test pressing of that. I've got a test pressing of Wowie Zowie 3-sided, so it hasn't got the etching. It's just got a blank.
I'm not sure. To be honest, I don't think that Wowie's. I'm not sure it has an etching. I have a feeling it is just blank on the 4th side, but it's quite a financial. I don't know. Anyway, but I've got a record to show you then, in case. I think you like this band, and I think they're really influenced by the Fall. They don't go now, but he's going as a solo artist, and it's.
Oh yeah.
Big fan, or
Big fan. Again, like you know.
This is just for those who don't know. This is the Country Teasers. You can just about make out the name down there.
Yeah. big fans of that group. Or, again, the Charlottefield, you know.
Yeah.
Ashley was a big fan of those, so he sort of, you know.
Yeah.
I think some of us. I was aware of the Country Teasers, and I had a couple of tapes of the full. But Ash's sort of passion for music is really infectious. If you spend any length of time with him at all, and you will come to appreciate things in different ways and from different angles than you might have thought about if you spend any sort of length of time listening to music with that guy. And the Country Teasers was one band where their first album is a 10-inch, right? He bought the 10-inch off of Colin at Edgeworld and brought it back to the house that me and him lived in at the time, and was like, "This is amazing, you've got to check this out." And again, sort of,
this is I'm assuming you got this, but maybe you got it in England or whatever at the minute, or France, or
it's in France.
I think this is a reissue, because I didn't have it on vinyl, I only had it on CD. So it comes as a gatefold, and
mine's not gatefold.
Exactly. So this is a reissue from 2019. So it's got all of this, and it's the story of the album. Letters from Ben, the main guy, to the label saying how he wants the art, and it's got like he wanted it and there's a picture of his drawing that he sent to the label, and then they did it, and it's supposed to be like a baddie. This is the band all dead with their girlfriends on the floor in front of the baddie. really funny. But what's amazing is in this, oh shit, sorry, Hound. In the liner notes, I dropped the record on him. He's used to it. It talks about what an absolute failure this record was for the label. Like Crypt Records is a sort of a garage rock label, right?
Yeah.
The Country Teasers were essentially a folly country English, or they were English, I think they were based in Edinburgh at the time, right at the beginning. Band, and it said we send out 104 promos to USA, Euro, Mags, etc. It sells 612 copies in the USA and 414 in Europe in the first 8 months.
That sounds good to me. That sounds like an unmitigated success.
Well, it might be for us, but not for I would, if I sell 1,000 records, I'm over the moon. But I think that Crypt Records are probably aiming a little bigger than that, and feels like, anyhow, it doesn't. They love it, of course. Yeah, Europe sales from 2002 to 2010, this 8-year period, they sold 256 copies in 8 years. But then eventually gets repressed in 2019.
Yeah,
and it's the gatefolds for this version. And I got it direct from Crypt in Germany, which is where they're based. And it's very reasonably priced, by the way. It was less than 20 euros, including postage.
Well, that's cool. All right. Yeah. Well, that'll work well for me then, because I'm in the EU, but so I'm not getting.
Yeah.
So, I order from the EU, I won't get stung for customs.
No. Yeah. We can talk about that off air. But I got another record back. So I sent. Okay, here's the story. I sent Tom 5 records a couple of weeks ago to go, I think maybe into this shop in Salamanca, or maybe to you to sell or something. Yeah. And Tom's now been hit with a £40 customs charge, which would not have happened 3 months ago in the year 2020 at any time before. And today I also got a record back from one that I'd sent to Austria. That they'd refused entry into the country, even though I'd filled out the customs, and it was posted on the same day as yours. I filled out the customs sticker, put gift, everything was totally official. Refused by customs, sent back.
No,
the times are changing, and they're changing bad.
Yeah, I mean, you got to think when something like that happens that there's an element of like, well, you don't want to. You guys don't want to play the game, then we're not going to either.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I think but I think Europe is essentially sticking its fingers up at this country, and probably rightly so. We probably deserve it. God damn. Anyhow, you got any more records to show?
I've got a couple more I'd like to quickly just blather about, if I may.
Yeah, totally.
Soup by Fax Machine. Still waiting for my, because of customs again, still waiting for my copy of Fax Machine's second album, Ouch. This is a guy called Dave Turnbull from Newcastle, who I first met because he was playing guitar for Your Codename Is Milo. And him and the drummer were fans of Charlottefield, and they invited us to go on tour with them. And they were absolutely brilliant company, those guys, really, really funny.
Yeah.
Dave now records himself as Fax Machine.
Right.
I don't really know how to describe it. It sort of weirdly reminds me of like a cross between like Sparks and Pavement, or but that's, you know, that comes nowhere near. Both albums are really great.
Don't know it at all. Yeah,
check it out on Bandcamp. Ouch is the latest one, which I don't have here, but this has been, I played this almost as much as I have that.
Right.
I ordered it off Bandcamp, so I got the digital download, so I can at least listen to the record. I don't know. Fantastic records, really, really very cool. Keely Forsyth, her LP from last year, which really blew me away.
Don't know that either. Cool.
She's, I don't know much about her. She's British. She's an actor. She's been in like Casualty, I think, and those kind of TV shows.
Yeah. But
this is her first record, came out early last year. Reminds me of like The Drift by Scott Walker as much as anything. It reminds me of, and not that it particularly sounds like that, but just in how kind of far out and how singular it is in terms of production and arrangement and songwriting. Last track on it's called Start Again, which is just one of my favourite pieces of music at the moment.
And say the name of the person again, the artist.
Keely Forsyth, Keeleyforsyth.
And the album's called Debris.
Debris, yeah. Debris by Keely.
What label's it on?
It's on Leaf. It's on the Leaf.
Oh, right.
label.
That's okay. Yeah, that's a label I know.
Mm. Yeah, they do some interesting stuff. But yeah, just particularly enamoured with this.
Right.
And KLS, Noise Hits. I don't know if you know KLS.
Shit, no, that's 3 in a row. No, don't know this either. Awesome.
I think you should check this group out, Joe. They're from Benicarlo, which is on the east coast of Spain, just south of Catalonia, south of Barcelona. 3-piece, kind of. I'm not keen on comparing bands to other bands, but it's a useful shorthand, especially in this kind of situation. If you like stuff like those early Black Dice 7 inches, where they're sort of a
bit more
post-hardcore band, but moving into the more sort of textural noise that they later did at the same time as being
that guy there on the left. I know, possibly, I don't know. He looks a bit like John Olsen, the Wolf Eyes guy. The guy, you know, the guy from Wolf Eyes who wears the dark glasses and the hat all the time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
No, I don't know. I don't think it's that person. I think I might have encountered these two guys because KLS are part of this. The guys that are in the band are part of this collective down in Benicarlo that puts gigs on. They have a really cool venue called Plug in the Gear, which is like on an industrial estate in a small town that people drive from like 50 kilometers away to go to whatever they put on there.
Love those sort of nights. Yeah, they're good ones. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So you get these. I believe those two guys might be regulars of that scene because I think I've seen them. I think I recognise them.
Right.
I wouldn't swear to it.
No. Oh, good tip.
Great band. Anyway, great band. They've been to the UK, and I hope they will. I think they're still kind of entertaining the idea of going again. I hope they will. They're just really, really great band. Super impressive live. They sing in Balti. The singer sings in Valenciano, which is kind of similar to Catalan as well. He's kind of very, very strict about all the lyrics being in Valenciano.
Oh, okay. So I didn't know that. I know there's Basque and Catalan,
Mhm.
and Spanish. So there's more than those like three sort of
Yeah, I
languages
mean,
spoken in Spain.
I think Valenciano's. A lot of people tell me that it's really, really similar to Catalan and is
Right.
more or less the same language. But
Okay. Didn't
I
know.
don't know.
Yeah. Okay.
I
Yeah.
can't be any more specific.
I think Colossus have been to Spain twice, but we've never been to Zaragoza.
Oh, okay.
Uh, yeah. Yeah.
Well,
Always good times, but like big country to
yeah,
drive to from here as well.
yeah, long drives. I mean, it was funny when we was in Charlottefield. We were kind of we talked with Fat Cat about going to, touring in mainland Europe,
Yeah.
and we were always sort of told, forget about Spain. You'll never play any good gigs down there. You'll never get any records out. You never sell any records down there or get any people at your gigs. And then we got invited over by the guys in Picore, and just completely unsolicited. And it turned out to be, one of our best experiences, if not, it was definitely up there. The second time we came to Spain was like one of the best touring experiences we ever had.
Yeah, I hear that about a lot of. I remember there was a band called Keel Hall. Okay, they're a kind of a big metal band, and their first tour they did was like a sort of an underground DIY sort of punk booked tour.
Right.
They toured through Europe, and it was a total result. People showing up all over the place. People went mental, and then I got a feeling they either signed to. They moved to a big booking agent. The booking agent booked the tour, and it was a complete flop. Because they went and booked venues that don't have that's what you're talking about with that, was it KLS band, and they don't have that sort of, that they weren't hitting the right spots. It's all about that, isn't it? I'm not saying that Fat Cat are a big label like that would miss out on that sort of information, but maybe their sights and aims are just different.
Yeah.
They missed the target. They're aiming up here, but if you aim right, you can totally do.
Yeah, so I mean, it's kind of it's quite well essayed in your book, I think, of all places. You're better off with those sort of experiences. You make better connections with people. You meet more interesting people. You meet people who are perhaps a lot of the time more passionate about what we're all doing. What they're doing and what whatever band they've gone to see, or I wouldn't I wouldn't swap it. I like the underground. I like the
right.
wide places, the small sweaty places where 70 people, maybe if you're lucky, turn up and pay their fiver to get in. And
no, this is it. Because when Colossus went to Spain, I remember playing Bilbao, and I'm pretty sure it was like a Monday or whatever. It was one of the first dates of the tour, and we didn't think anyone would come. And there was like 40 people in this room, and it just really sticks with you longer than anything else. Like you just come away from it thinking, holy fucking shit! There's like 40 odd people there. They all dug it. We sold you can sell to 25% of the crowd when there's 40 people there. And they'll pick up records and you'll talk and you'll make contacts, and it's like I will relentlessly. It's what is it they say? A hill I'll die on. But I just think it's something that it means a lot. Like that sort of stuff. It just sticks in your mind forever.
Yeah, it's great when it's great when you see a room full of people who are kind of you just feel like what you're doing is actually kind of connecting with them.
Yeah, exactly.
That it's hitting the spot, and you see it not even necessarily in how much stuff you sell, but you go and stand at the table afterwards, with the records and T-shirts or whatever, and people will come and talk to you, and maybe buy a record, maybe not, but it's good. It's good. I know I'm preaching to the choir.
No. I think it's this is probably a. I've got a couple more records, but let's leave it. Let's end on a positive note.
Okay.
We good
All
with
right.
that? Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm intrigued to know what these other couple of records are, Joe, but I don't want to.
Well, okay. Well, I'll quickly show them just because I wasn't sure where we were going to go tonight, so I came prepared for Unit Armour.
Right. Well, the last time we played in Benicalo was with the Unit Hammer. We got them over. We got them over, lent them our gear, and did 4 gigs with them.
Yeah, I thought that they might come up in conversation. So this was on Gringo.
Yeah.
Now, beautifully printed sleeve. Came with like an insane ribbon around it or whatever, which I've probably got or I might not have, but great record.
Yeah, that is lovely. And the live album that they've done since then, have you heard that?
Yeah, I've heard it. I don't have it. Was it put out by Tusk?
Yeah.
Festival.
All completely different songs than are on the studio LP.
Yeah. And so yeah, I had that in hand in case you mentioned them because I kind of thought you might. I brought a bit of broadcast to the table.
I love that. I got the. I can't remember where I bought that now. It wasn't off of Colin, but I have that record as well.
Yeah. So this is Warp LP 65, and I remember it because I sold it in at the distributor I worked at. But my copy so old that the spine is fading.
Mine is like that as well. Mine's you get the sun fade on the spines, don't you?
Like it's like most red cars from the late 70s and 80s where the bonnet turns like a different color. You see those?
I've seen that. Not for a long time, but that's ringing bells.
I don't know why I had it in my head that the Monks, like Black Time, I just think it's a great record. I thought maybe it would end up getting mentioned.
I used to play I Hate You when I DJ'd at the Penthouse and the Freebart. Used to play I Hate You a lot.
It's great. And the Fall covered them quite a bit. I don't know how many songs the Fall covered of the Monks, but it was a fair
couple at least.
Yeah. And then I was really only going to raise up the Sweet Williams album you released on Wrong Speed.
Oh yeah, well, highly recommended, obviously.
Highly recommended, but I was just in case. I don't know why I bought it. And I was going to show this because I think there's a bit of the Sweet Williams album that sounds a little bit like this, and I love this record. And this is another pick up for £1 anywhere. Yeah, and it's surprisingly good.
It is good. I remember we talked about it at the time. And, I kind of went back and had a bit of an In Excess, a couple of days of checking out In Excess again.
It's
cool down.
It's
It's a good record.
Yeah, so I thought £1, like another record you can pick up for £1. Don't bother buying reissues for like £25. Removable sticker.
You said yesterday, you were saying to Tim and Rue, you like to keep the stickers on, right?
Yeah.
I take them off myself.
Oh, do you take them off? Okay.
And the shrink wrap as well. Take the shrink wrap off.
I've started doing that. I started doing that because it bends the sleeves, doesn't it? And then I put them in PVC. Yeah. Okay, let's call it a night, shall we?
All right. Well, it's been lovely speaking to you, Jay.
Yeah, it's been good to speak to you as well. Hopefully we'll get together again. And by the way, so if the first time we met was at the Brighton Crawl in '98, the last time we met was in Paris when Gnod, Part Chimp and Colossus played.
About 18 months ago.
It was November 2019.
Okay.
That's the last time we met and you turned up there, I think out of the blue. I'm not sure I knew you were coming and it was really good to see you.
I think Summerlin might have known I was coming.
Summerlin knows everything, of course, but I'm not entirely. I don't know whether I knew, and it was really good to see you that night, and that was a long time ago. Yeah,
it was. That was a great night.
It was a great night.
I mean, I was staying with their parents just outside of Paris then.
Right. Yeah, I'll go on record as well and saying that Gnod that night were one of the best things I've seen for a very long time.
It was impressive.
Yeah, it blew my mind. That night.
I really enjoyed Colossus that night. I'm gonna blow smoke up your ass.
Well, but Gnod were like, it was like someone else described it as feral. I don't know who, but I'm using that word, and that's kind of what it felt like. It felt like there was steam coming off the stage while they played. It felt like a science fiction film watching them on this boat.
Yeah.
We played on a boat in on the Seine, and yeah, it felt science fiction. And it sticks in my mind as like this shadowy, smoky, loud as hell. It was awesome.
It was a cool place, man. I thought that. Yeah, I don't know. I kind of felt like I don't know if I should say this, but I think it's all right. I sort of felt like when I was watching you guys, I sort of felt like I was watching Billy Idol, like a Billy Idol pop video from the 80s, because of that, you know, the way that the height of the stage, so it's like that kind of camera angle, you know, Paul that looked like a proper front man with smoke and lights and
yeah. It was a good night.
Yeah, it was a good night.
Anyhow, we're not here to talk. Oh fuck! No, the record I wanted to talk about. Sorry, we are stopping. Was Before Carnation.
Oh, I'm really glad you brought that up. I'm really glad because it was on my mind to talk about them earlier.
Sorry for dragging. If anyone's still watching, I'm really sorry to be dragging it on. But you know, yeah, Before Carnation. I think that them and Hoover. I think well, I hear both bands in what you've been up to in your time playing music.
I think I think Before Carnation, I maybe even prefer to Slint, that and the first two EPs of I think are Untitled Records. That's got that record's got an appearance from Kim Deal on it, which means that it's got probably my two favourite living songwriters on the same album.
Yeah.
And
it's on Domino. It was back when Domino were releasing good American records.
Yeah.
Licensing, I guess, from either City Slang or
Touch and Go, I think, in the US.
Yeah. So yeah, they were licensing from like they did Pavement, didn't they? So they must have been licensing them from Matador or do you know what I mean? Like however it worked.
And they had Sebado and things like that. And in the UK, that around that time, they were doing cool bands like Hood and Movie Tone.
Yeah.
They were putting out a lot of drag city stuff, Palace and Smog and things like that.
And this throws back to what I was saying around 100 hours ago about how maybe you'd follow a label and what they were releasing. And at that point, Domino was one of those labels where if a Domino release came out, you were like, I've got to check that out.
Actually, yes, I think I did check out quite a lot of stuff just because it was Domino.
But you don't so much now, especially with Domino, like because they're enormous now. But you know, it's different what they're doing. I think.
Yeah, it's a bit more of a kind of you know they're a big indie now, aren't they? They're like the mainstream indie.
Yeah, but the first however many years they were releasing bringing over really interesting records like this one, Before Carnation. Yeah. Oh, I'm glad I mentioned that then.
Good. I'm glad you did as well.
And put it back into its sheath. Yeah. let's say goodbye to the people.
All right, Joe.
I'm a wave, okay, and then I'll click stop.
Okay. Lovely to see you, man.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tom House. Take care. Bye bye.